Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan. Is this seat taken at a restaurant table, at a bar, or on a bar stool? Is this bar stool taken? Today's theme, we're going to be focusing on food. More of a food podcast than a travel podcast. This is kind of like Will Travel for Food podcast.
I think we don't do that too much food, do we?
Well,
people eat.
No, we don't. I mean, when we travel, we certainly. Well, yeah. we both eat pretty extensively. I'll say.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, it's also
almost every day.
It's my business. I'm in the restaurant business, so particularly relevant to me today.
That's true. Well, you all should be up for a James Beard Award one day. I'll submit you.
Now you have to remember, this is the first episode where we're featuring the new segment, the Judy Alert. And this is where we discover where Ryan is today so that his mother, Judy, has some idea of where her son is. Hopefully not Ecuador with everything that's going on there right now. So, Ryan, Judy Alert, where are you today?
I am in Bogota. I am sitting on the 11th floor of WeWork overlooking. It's a beautiful day. It's about 70 degrees and sunny.
Oh, they still got WeWorks down in Bogota?
They do. Every time I scan my card, I'm like, is this a day that they've gone under? But no, it's still here. So why
do you go to a WeWork instead of just where your Airbnb or your hotel?
Because the internet and the free coffee. Yeah. Those are the two things. Yeah, I mean, I have 100 up down internet here, and in my Airbnb, it's like 20 up down. So it's not even close. Yeah, and I'm an internet guy. I don't know if you know this about me, but
internet. So. You've always tell me, and then you post pictures of like the Howard Dean campaign,
where I also interneted.
Now, Ryan, today you've got a very interesting interview for us to listen to.
Yes, we're going to talk to Dawn Padmore, who is the vice president of awards at the James Beard Awards Foundation, to talk a bit about, how they select their restaurants and a bit about what the awards are, because you always, when you're dining out, you see folks say, I'm a James Beard awarded chef or James Beard awarded restaurant. And we're going to get into what that means.
And you decided to do this when the Semi-Finalists List came out.
Yeah, every year they release this really long semi-finalist list and one of the things we talk about in the interviews, what I love about the James Beard Awards is how deep they go into the United States. So there are restaurants and bars and chefs that are getting shout outs in all 50 states. And when you're planning your trip, it's a great thing to look at because, there's a lot of really random places that you might not have heard of.
No, they do amazing research, I must say, because they've got spots on here that I've known that I thought were kind of undersung restaurants, and I've never seen great praise heaped on them. But James Beard has them on that list, so it's a great travel tip that the Semi-Finalist List gives you a really comprehensive look. If you're booking travel somewhere, or if you're traveling for work somewhere, this is a must-stop list.
I totally agree. I think in the United States, if you're traveling, if you're doing a day trip to West Hartford, Connecticut, there is something on the list.
I grew up close to West Hartford.
I know. Yeah. I looked that place up. It looks awesome. It's I think it's a very cool list, and we've linked in the show notes.
It's a good point, actually. If you're going to visit family, it's a good list to consult because you can get on their great restaurant while you're home for the holidays.
Yeah, and I think later on you and I are going to unpack some picks from the list, and I've included one on there that I'm gonna go visit when I see my mom in a couple months. So exciting!
That's a great Judy alert. Judy, he's coming eventually.
She's holding the Airbnb for me, so I'm excited. I get Airbnb treatment. And Kiernan, in the interview, I asked Dawn sort of how they find all these regional restaurants, and it's really interesting the how they do it. So I won't give too much away to that, but I do want to say before we jump into, I think you have a update for us. We have gotten so many 5-star reviews.
Yeah,
in the
we're
last
like,
couple
really,
weeks.
we don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, we beg regularly. Usually it means, it results in nothing. But there's just been like a flood recently. It's been great.
Yeah, so I'm going to do just a quick shout out to these folks who have left us 5-star reviews because, hey, if you leave us a 5-star review, you get a shout out. It's a good deal. Good old Archibald.
Deal?
Yeah,
it's
a deal.
It's all right. It would just stay in the name. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a deal, at least. If it's a good one, you decide.
Now, this first one, I think you might have a soulmate here.
Yeah, so Archibald Livingston, great name. It sounds like somebody who would, what's that movie? Saltburn. Sounds like a character from Saltburn.
I haven't,
which is appropriate.
That?
Oh yeah. Not podcast appropriate, but it's a hell of a movie.
Also worth noting, Archibald Livingstone was a Scottish professional footballer who died in 1910. Just a quick fun note for Archie.
I did not know that. Wikipedia
told
fun.
Me.
Very specific reference, but Archibald gave a shout out to my specific call outs to gay bars and natty wine, not even natural wine, knowing the slang. So thank you, Archibald,
is natty
for that.
Wine a thing natural wine people say?
It's what we say. We say natty wine. We don't say natural wine.
I thought he was using it like natty wine, like, good looking wine.
No, it means natty. It's natty. It's natty wine. It's glue.
Sure.
Oh gosh.
Right. Yeah.
Wait,
what'd you call it?
Glue. That's what you call really drinkable natty wine. It's. I can't explain these things, okay? It's just the way that it works.
No, you're explaining them to me. You're explaining them to the audience. This is what we need. Yeah. Archibald's rolling his eyes.
Jeannie from PA was a first-time listener to the London episode and enjoys their in-depth, what do we call them? Like location-based episodes, guides?
Yeah, we call them city guides. And
city guides, country guides.
London's were particularly good.
Yeah.
We've got a deep catalog on visiting London.
Yeah, quite a good selection in London. We're missing big things like Paris. But we should.
It is true. We always say. I mean, sometimes I'm just shocked by what we haven't done. Because I don't think we've done. Did we do a Morocco episode for?
You did a Morocco episode.
I did.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Good. I feel good about that.
In fact, it's one of our most downloaded episodes, so I see it regularly.
Yes, you're right. Okay, I
see it regularly when I'm looking at the stats and fuming over.
You're so jealous. But I've never done Malaysia. I've never done Indonesia. No. Maybe I did our Vietnam trip. There's a lot to unpack in all these places.
Yeah, well,
I definitely think this year we can hit Paris. We should do several Paris episodes. I've got a lot of Paris content. We've said we're doing the Vatican this year. We're doing Las Vegas this year.
Yeah, and I think we should do New Orleans this year. There's a lot of things we should do.
God, there's just so many places to go.
Yeah, there's so many places.
We're not made a podcast, people.
No, and it's a lot of travel, folks. We're doing our best. Going down this list, Hafa Ade Apa. Did I say that?
Better than most of your Spanish pronunciations. Yeah, I think that was pretty close.
They enjoy the banter between us, and they say that we always make them laugh or at least smile. So,
we'll take it, I guess. When we're having an off day.
The Pharma 55 loves the podcast.
I think that's Famer 55. I don't think this is a farmer.
I think a pharmacist.
Pharma shill.
Big Pharma 55. No, Famer 55 loves the podcast. Definitely worth the 5-star rating. And even if they're not interested in the location we're discussing, we can be fun. There's a lot of caveats in these 5-star reviews.
I agree. Almost everybody's like, it's usually okay.
And then the last on this list, this was a really fun one. I'll let you try to pronounce this one.
Nutella Kell is the winner, I would say this week. First of all, because she has Nutella in her name, in her handle.
You're a Nutella guy, right?
I've got a huge weakness for Nutella. I'm not a Nutella guy. I want to caveat. It's like giving an alcoholic a shot. Nutella I cannot put down. Famously, when Catherine and I lived in London before we were married, she discovered in my work bag that I had a secret Nutella jar.
Secret. You're like ashamed of
when
it.
I just needed a quick hit, my Nutella flask.
Yeah, you're like Don Draper, but with Nutella.
So Nutella, I wish. And so Nutella Kel and I are together on that one. And she said she's a fellow Bostonian, but she used to live in Bushwick. I mean, this could be our child, Ryan.
Yeah, no, she's super cool. And she feels a connection to us. And I think she's also a podcast host. And
is that right?
Yeah, I think we should look up the podcast and link it in the show notes.
Do you know it? You don't know it offhand?
I don't remember, but we do Google folks
also,
who.
Is this the Catholic? Is this the one who was super Catholic?
No, I don't
we already covered her. We covered her in the previous episode. I'm still hanging on to that one. I think traveling Catholics might be our niche.
Yeah, well, the Vatican episode will prove if that's an audience or not.
Well, Saint Christopher, patron saint of travelers. We could rename it.
Yeah, we've covered so many saints.
Saint Christopher.
We've covered Saint Christopher and Saint Sebastian. That's like you and I going on the town.
Well, thank you very much. Please keep the reviews coming. It really does help us. It helps with discoverability on all these platforms. And, it gives us feedback on what kind of episodes you like. And if you have any ideas, pitch them to us there. Or you can always email us at outofofficepod@gmail.com.
Or follow us on Instagram at OOO Podcast.
And you just slip into those DMs. Now, Ryan, before we get to the interview, we do have a quick recalculating.
Recalculating.
Now, Ryan, you remember what recalculating is, right?
Yes, it's typically when you've made a mistake and we have to update it, but this is something else. You always
say that. It's not me. It's okay. Sometimes there are mistakes that we need to correct. We want to be responsible journalists. We're saying we're journalists now, right? We want to be a responsible journalist. So recalculating, we might issue a correction, but also it's following up on a story that we've been covering or a destination that we've talked about on the pod, and there might be an update. And in this case, it's exactly one of those, which is. Ryan, you're familiar with the fact that Notre Dame in Paris went up in flames a few years ago?
Yes, we did a whole episode on it, I think, right?
We did a whole episode on it. And famously at that time, the country vowed that it would resurrect, it would be repaired. I think it was 5 years, right?
Yeah, something like that didn't seem possible.
Yeah. And they said they would have it back in 5 years. It was April 2019 that fire happened. And there was great skepticism. That felt like maybe they were making a promise that they couldn't keep just to keep spirits high. But lo and behold, Notre Dame is on schedule to be reopened, fully repaired this year.
That's incredible. And I know that it was a lot of late nights, Emmanuel Macron out there himself just lifting bricks, and it was probably something to see. Now, remember when they originally were discussing the reopening, they had all these sort of ideas. They were going to build like a rooftop garden and they were going to do all this stuff.
Like a glass tower. And that's right. We talked about that back in the episode. We'll link to the episode in case people are interested, because that actually was a very interesting aspect of welcoming new innovative ideas. But being true Catholics, we don't want anything new. Thank you very much. In fact, they're using medieval building techniques to restore it to as close to what it was.
So they just went pure restoration.
Pure restoration.
I'm a little disappointed. I was looking forward to that natural wine bar on the top, with tapas and. But
you wanted to get some natty wine up on Notre Dame? So I'm looking forward to getting back to a mass there soon. That by the end of 2024, they're hoping to welcome it back. And I have to imagine it's going to be a big, grand reopening. So we'll definitely cover that in the year ahead.
Yeah, well, congratulations to France. That's a heck of a job getting that done.
Congratulations. Is that how?
Well, probably, yeah.
Well, Ryan, I don't want to delay it any further. I think it's time that we get to your interview with the James Beard Foundation.
Yeah. Call the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Welcome, Dawn, to Out of Office. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about the James Beard Foundation, and specifically who was James Beard?
Sure. Well, the James Beard Foundation is really the nation's leading culinary nonprofit dedicated to celebrating, elevating, and supporting the people behind America's food culture. We're also striving to push for new standards in the independent restaurant industry. The organization was founded in 1985 in honor of James Beard, who is known as the Dean of American Cookery. He was one of the country's first food TV personalities. He was also a cookbook author. He was a teacher, overall pioneer for the appreciation of American cuisine. He really helped to put the U.S., America, at the forefront of global gastronomy. He really respected and revered American culinary traditions, which is really wonderful. He championed local products, seasoned and seasonal ingredients. He also nurtured a lot of chefs and influenced so many chefs and cookbook authors who eventually changed the way that we eat.
Oh, well, that's really cool to know. I didn't have that background, but it seems like you all are most definitely honoring him with your selections every year. So, yeah. Dawn, I wonder what do you think makes a world-class restaurant?
Oh dear. Well, we know that everybody has their own taste buds. But I'll talk a little bit about our awards. In terms of world class, well, we have a few components that, well, first, let me just give you a little quick background about how the awards are run. Maybe that'll be a little bit useful for your listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
We have 6 different programs altogether that fall under the James Beard Awards. And it's one of many, many, many other programs that I hope I get a chance to just touch on a little bit here with you today. We're like one big solar system, essentially, and all of our programs, we try to touch those who are part of the independent restaurant industry in some way or fashion, just laddering up to our mission. But we're talking about the awards, that's my area. So again, we have 6 programs. We have 3 different media programs: book, journalism, broadcast media, and then we have the 3 achievement awards, which are a lifetime humanitarian, and the leadership awards, which the last one focuses primarily on those in the food systems. And then, of course, restaurant and chef awards. Each program has a subcommittee, and the subcommittee is responsible for overseeing the function of the awards in tandem, of course, with key members of JBF staff, including my team. They also have judges who go out to taste for restaurant and chefs specifically and vote along with committee members. So that gives you a general picture of the programs. Now, to go back to your question, which I promise I'm not avoiding. World class.
Oh, actually, Dawn, I wonder if you could just expand a little bit, because one of the things that folks use our podcast for is to do, trip planning and figure out what restaurants to go to. And one of the things I love about your awards specifically is how national they are. I mean, they're divided between regions. You cover pretty much everywhere in the United States. How do you find all these great restaurants all over the country? How does that work?
Oh, sure. So the process for the Restaurant and Chef Awards is as follows. First, we have an open call for recommendations. And in fact, we have an open call for entry and recommendations for all of the programs. Starts in October. Anybody can submit, like if you have a favorite place you like to go to, you can submit a recommendation for that place, for that chef. People can self-nominate in quotes, meaning, they can submit on their own behalf. And then also the voting body, including the subcommittee members and their judges, can also submit. So that closes, and then the subcommittee will get together and call the list down, like looking at everything, call the list down to top 20 for each of our 22 categories, with the exception of Best New Restaurant, which has 30 semi-finalists in it. So we then announced that list. And as you know, we recently announced it on the 24th of January. And then after that, they have a couple of rounds of voting. There's the process for voting includes assigning all of the voters to restaurants. They go out and they taste, they vote, and then they also have discussions around the tasting. And so there are two rounds, as I said. So we will announce the nominees in early April, and then in June, we'll announce the winners in Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome. So there's the finalists, and then the semifinalists, and then the winners, essentially.
Semi-finalists, finalists, which we refer to as nominees, and then the winners.
Awesome.
Exactly.
And now, how do you get to be a judge? Because it sounds like a pretty great opportunity to get to eat all this great food and talk about it. Sure.
Well, our subcommittee members will surface folks who dine out a lot. They can be food writers. Many of them are editors. They are people who are knowledgeable about the dining scene in their respective regions, of which there are 12. Or the people who just go out to eat a lot. They could be in adjacent professions as well. So it's a bit of a mix, essentially. So people are invited. It's very confidential, obviously, for the integrity of the process. And that's how it's run.
That's very cool. Now going back to my question before, I'm curious. You've got all these regions, you've got all these amazing restaurants, and so
Sure.
we're gonna link to the list so folks can sort of explore their own areas. But so what are you looking for? What makes a world-class restaurant?
Well, the committee and the judges and JBF, of course, we're looking for restaurants that are excellent, right? Exceptional talent. It's a combination of things. Exceptional talent. It's got depending on the category specifically, but say outstanding restaurant, exceptional food, excellent hospitality, whether it's fine dining, more casual establishment, and one that in its own way is leading the way in creating a great work culture or other things that are aligned with our mission. All of this is food on the plate and food off the plate. It could be so many different things, but it is anchored in our mantra, which is good food for good.
And so you mentioned fine dining and other restaurants. So this is not just fine dining. You're sort of all over the spectrum.
It is the spectrum. Absolutely. You can find excellence in various formats of dining. And I think that's the beauty of our awards.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, too often, these lists and awards are focused on, very specific restaurants. So one of the things I love about your all's list is that it's so varied and, and types of food and cost and geography that really there's something for everybody on your list there.
Well, thank you. That's the goal. It's really to, we want to express the full breadth of the independent restaurant industry. So it really, we love all of the candidates. It's wonderful. So it's very exciting. And that's what the awards are about.
So outside of the awards, do you want to talk a little bit about the work that the James Beard Foundation does?
Yes, of course. Well, first I'll give you a big picture. Okay. You already know our mission. It really comes to life through the awards, of course. Our industry and community-focused programs, advocacy initiatives. We have events around the country, which is expressed through our Taste America program. And then we have a new platform here in New York. It's called Platform by the James Beard Foundation. It's a space at Pier 57 in New York City. Next time you're in town, we'll go visit. We have a lot of wonderful programming there, from panels to dinners to all sorts of fun things. But essentially, I'll give you some highlights. Our organizations, through impacts that we're having. Our impact includes, we recognize over 2,700 chefs, over 400 restaurants, and hundreds of people in food media and, of course, the food systems. We launched our Chef Bootcamp for Policy and Change Initiative in 2012. This program has trained more than 350 chefs from around the country to advocate for policies and practices that impact the industry and our food system. We have awarded nearly $10 million in scholarships to over 2,000 culinary professionals. We've raised nearly $5 million. We've awarded $15,000 worth of grants to more than 300 independent restaurants across the country. This was for COVID-19 relief. We provided close to $1 million to over 60 businesses across the country through JBF's Investment Fund for Black and Indigenous Americans. That fund is no longer active, but I did want to mention that. We have a legacy program that is a pathway for Black, Indigenous, and people of color moving in the industry. It's a mentoring program, so you've got mentors and mentees, the very important aspect of our work here. I was briefly mentioned Taste America, and this is a national program featuring chefs from all over the country in various cities. It really is, it's exciting being a part of this organization because we really are doing so many things to support the industry, and we're really pleased and proud. And of course, we have to continue our work and improve here and there for sure. Certainly isn't perfect, but we're pleased and proud of the work that we've been doing.
Wow. I have to confess that before our conversation, I didn't know just the scope of everything you all work on. So that's fantastic. And we'll have a link in the show notes if folks want to, see a list of the restaurants and learn more about all the programs that are going on at the James Beard Foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you. One that I actually should mention is we just released an industry study, which is really exciting. We also recently released a policy agenda with impact priorities. And this is, everything eventually comes down to the consumer, the diner. All of this work ends up influencing what you eat, how you eat, and how you experience it. And I think that's the exciting part of being a part of the James Beard Foundation,
Yeah, absolutely.
And working with our amazing committees on the awards. I mean, it's, people eat out. People eat food in their communities.
It's one of my favorite things to do, Dawn.
Yes.
So I'm curious if there's any trends that you've seen in restaurants this year, anything specific that's been popping up?
Well, I think we're seeing people express their particular food ways, their training, who they are through their food. In general, that's what we're seeing. Or that's what I'm seeing, I should say. There is still, an appetite for excellent hospitality, like a full, well-rounded experience. Again, whether it's in fine dining or like a really low-key type of a dining establishment, lots of, openness to tasting food from, different cultures that you may or may not have tried in the past, whether it's French, whether it's, Senegalese, whether it's Italian, whether it's Japanese, Korean, all of it. I think it's more about the restaurants are expressing themselves, and people are open to trying new things. And that is really cool.
Yeah, well, I think that's because of organizations like you all who are helping, people understand what's available out there. So
I think so. And I think too, a lot of the operations are focused on, things like sustainability expressed in however they're able to do, and also really focusing on their staff, on their teams. It's really great.
Well, look, Dawn, we really appreciate your time. And we're going to, again, link to the James Beard Foundation in the show notes. Folks should check out the website, all the various good work you do. And maybe we'll have you back at some point to talk about the winners.
I would love it. Thank you so much for your time, Ryan. This is really fun. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're here in the last stop. It sounds like maybe you glued on that now it's time for the last stop. Sounded a little different than the interview, but I'm not going to hold it against you. I thought it was a very, very good interview, Ryan. Fascinating to figure out how they do all that research. And I'm going to try to copy some of those techniques.
And I think it's super cool that they do a lot of stuff to support restaurants and small businesses, and they have a lot of programs sort of outside of the awards. So I definitely encourage folks to, check out the website and explore all the other stuff the James Beard Foundation does, because it's more than just the awards, even though the awards are pretty awesome.
Yeah, it made me think we should start some out of office awards. Then we have kind of a press moment, but people will find the podcast off of them. What do you think?
It's actually not a terrible idea.
No, it's not horrible.
Yeah. We now great city, city of the year goes to Mexico City. What a shock!
City of the year.
Outstanding WeWork.
Well, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. And it's popularly known as the people segment. And that's because it's a moment for us to come together as a community and share of ourselves. And you and I each bring one thing each episode. It could be anything. It could be a daydream. It could be a plan in the making. It could be a religious experience. It could be a dream you've had. It could be a souvenir. It could be a tall tale. Could be an article. Could be a podcast. But must meet one criterion. That criterion is that it must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I'm just hanging on. I need a travel fix. So I have to ask you this episode, as I ask you every episode. Do you have a last stop?
I do, Kiernan. This episode, we are actually going to unpack some of the semifinalists from this list and pick 3 each that we either love and recommend or that we want to check out. So I brought a last stop.
Because you've got a mix of places you've been and places you want to go.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I'm excited about this list. And your list, I feel like there's a couple, this one on here that we might go together, I hope.
That's exactly why I chose it. That's exactly right. Well, why don't we? I'm most excited for you to dig into your first one because it's a place I've been.
It's a place I've been too.
Oh, I didn't know that. And we didn't even go together.
Yeah. So no, when I was in, this is The Obstinate Daughter on Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, which is right outside of Charleston. And I have to tell you, I loved this place. I thought it was
great.
Really beautiful. The food was awesome. Had a great cocktail menu. It's a really unique location. Like you kind of feel like you're really outside of the city, and it's right on the little beach there. It's a lovely little place. So I think The Obstinate Daughter.
I would also say it was really nice cocktails. And also, I brought my obstinate son and my obstinate daughter there, and it was perfectly family friendly for a lunchtime meal.
Yeah, it's a big place too, so it's not super hard to get into, even though it's really popular. And I was happy to see it on this list because I had such a good time when I was there, and I follow them on Instagram, and they post some really beautiful stuff, like around the restaurant. And one of the things I love to do, Kiernan,
I have that follow. Yeah.
One of the things I love to do is just follow museums and restaurants and places that I go on Instagram because when it pops up randomly, it kind of brings you back. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember that meal I had.
That's
and
good.
Yeah.
You know what I do that's like that? On the Apple Weather app, I keep the cities from around the world and I check their weather along with where I am. Places I've been. And it just makes me remember, the different weather that you experience. And I always hold on. I'm going to pull it up right now. All right. It's
the weather is
degrees.
Sometimes different.
It's 25 degrees in West Glacier. Okay. That brings me back to Glacier National Park. Oh, and Yangon, steamy 79 degrees. Oof. Estes Park, Colorado, 31 up there in the mountains. That's actually not too different. Mexico City, 45 degrees.
That's chilly.
It's cooler. It is chilly in Mexico City. More chilly than people think because it's high up.
Yeah, it does get chilly.
Oh, here, talk about chilly. I got Quebec City right here. 10
Ooh.
degrees. Yeah, you're gonna want to wear your snowshoes. I've got Tokyo at 37 degrees. Oh, Jakarta, steamy 80 degrees. This is in the Vatican, 62. You're gonna want to put on an extra vestment. This could be a new segment.
I don't think
I just walked through.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna use one more. Oh, this is the one I'm most jealous of. Anchorage, 21 degrees and snowing. That's where I would like to be right now.
It's February. We're getting to spring. So get out of here.
It's not spring. That's like one of the major winter months for the Northeast.
Didn't the groundhog say that it was? I forget what the groundhog said, but they had something.
Did Bill de Blasio kill it yet this year?
Every year there's jokes about that. That's the one thing he'll be remembered for. I mean,
it's a real nightmare scenario.
It is. It is. You don't want to kill the groundhog when you're getting its prediction.
I mean, it'd be one thing if Barack Obama killed it, but I don't know. Bill de Blasio, it just feels like it like captures him.
Yeah, it really does, because he dropped it because he's like 17 feet tall.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, hey, Bill. Kiernan, did you? What's your first pick here on the list?
So my first pick here is it's in preparation, and this again is how we like to use the list for upcoming travel. Ryan, it seems like you and I have hit a date that it's going to work for us to go to Louisville and Mammoth Cave. And so I'm eagle-eyed for Louisville, Kentucky restaurants, and the one that made the list is called the Fat Lamb. And, it looks like a well-sourced fine cuisine, describes itself as a modern kitchen and bar. Obviously, the bar aspect is very important for you. Craft cocktails, local beer. And it seems like they have, a very good kind of standard middle of the road menu, all with like a little creative twist. So this feels like a nice night out. We're definitely gonna book a table here. And interestingly, I'm not a big food TV guy, but the chef and owner, whose name is Dallas McGarity, won.
That's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah, Dallas McGarity.
Yeah. If you want to have a son who's a chef, you have to name them Dallas. Then it almost makes it that or probably an adult film actor. Those are the two ways a Dallas can go, I think.
And so maybe if we have a down hour, we could watch this Chopped episode before we go. Yeah.
I love that.
And your second pick, Rye?
So my second pick is, I'm excited because I just texted my mom about this. I've heard about this restaurant for a couple years. I haven't had a chance to go, but it's called One Coastal in Fenwick Island, Delaware. And Fenwick Island is basically just a little bit north of Ocean City, Maryland, where Mom lives. And this place is really acclaimed for their seafood. They have a new chef, Chef Matt Kern, who's just taken over last year. And I'm excited. I feel like Ocean City has a lot of like big family restaurants, but they don't have as many sort of like small farm to table places. And what Matt is doing out there is really interesting, working with local farms and fisheries to kind of bring that farm to table, that ocean to table vibe to a big resort town. So One Coastal, excited for it. What is your second pick, Kiernan?
You and I, we didn't even plan this, but this is exactly in keeping where I had this is my mom pick. This is, I was thinking, what's like a nice restaurant that we could get mom out to this year? And the one that I picked is in Providence, Rhode Island. So I have a brother and a niece and a nephew who live in Rhode Island. So I know the city pretty well. And it's a place called Dolores PVD, Providence, it caught my eye because it's like a fine Mexican cuisine, and especially a focus on moles. And it's hard to get a good mole, Ryan. But interesting, all their moles can be made vegetarian because Clover, my restaurants that I work at, is vegetarian. I'm always keeping my eye out for interesting vegetarian inspiration. So I definitely want to give that a try. And I just thought this dish really grabbed my tongue. Is that how you say it? Grabbed your tongue? The mole negro, a ribeye, Brussels sprouts, sweet potato, and a mole negro, a dark, earthy, robust sauce of Oaxacan chilies, spices, and nuts. Doesn't that sound freaking delicious?
I am in Bogota, and let me tell you, the Mexican food here leaves something to be desired. So,
is that right?
That's making me hungry. Yeah, yeah. So, that sounds great. I love a good mole.
And your final pick?
So my final pick is a restaurant that I really like in New York, and I was happy to see it on the list. Now that it doesn't get enough attention, but Si Salmo. By this chef Hilary Sterling, and this is an upscale Italian place that is just big and bustling, and like great New York kind of like vibe of a restaurant. And it's in Hudson Yards, and we don't speak ill of places in general, but Hudson Yards is sort of like a mall essentially, and there's not a lot there that's great. And so if you ever have to go to Hudson Yards, like you've seen a show at the Shed, or you have a friend who moved into one of those like high rises that you got to go visit, this is a great restaurant to go to. You got to make reservations though for this one, because it is a popular place and it's just a lot of fun. So glad to see that make the list. And Kiernan, next time you're in the city, you gotta check it out.
Absolutely. And then climb the vessel and try not to jump off the side, which I understand is a pretty common occurrence these days.
Well, it's been closed now because you can't climb the vessel anymore. You can just look at it.
I don't it's just like when you build something that tall, people are going to kill themselves off of it. Like they didn't see that coming. It's New York City. Everybody's miserable. Yeah.
And when you're in Hudson Yards, the most depressing place in New York City, it doesn't help,
No. It's practically purpose built.
What's your third?
The Vessel to Heaven is the full name. Okay. So my third pick is it's an aspirational trip I'm hoping to get on the books this year. I've got a good friend who moved up to Minneapolis a couple years ago, and I've been wanting to get up there. I've never been to Minneapolis. Looks like a fun town, and there's a restaurant called Hai, Hai. And I've got a real weakness for great Vietnamese food. And this is a Southeast Asian street food restaurant. And the owners and chefs are both of Southeast Asian heritage, but also went to Vietnam purposely in order to find the best street food and bring it back as inspiration for their restaurant menu. And, actually to your point about food photography inspiring you, the Hai photography looks absolutely gorgeous. This food is just, you can like smell it when you look at these pictures. So this is a place I was completely unfamiliar with. Great discovery by James Beard, and it looks to me like an absolute must.
And one of the things that Dawn talks about in the interview is how important the diversity of food options is, because a lot of places, they really kind of go for that old school French or old school Italian when they're giving the awards. And I think to mix it up is, and show off the diversity of America's amazing food offerings is well worth it. And I should say, Kiernan, that Minneapolis is a city known for Southeast Asian cuisine. There's quite a few places that are supposed to be fantastic out there. Yeah.
And I also do want to just plug, I mean, obviously I had an eye out for the Boston food scene here, and also Portland, Maine, which is a great food city that I've spent a lot of time in. And I've got to say, this list like absolutely killed it. It has a ton of my favorite places on it. Ryan, you hit me with a couple questions. There's one on here I'd love to just shout out, which is Tallulah in Cambridge. Tallulah used to be TW Foods. This was where Catherine and I, for many, many years, used to do New Year's Eve here. Every night you could book, or every
night. You guys were exhausted.
Every year we would travel up to Boston from New York for the holidays, see Catherine's family, and then New Year's Eve, our tradition was to go to TW Foods, which is now Tallulah, and is an absolutely killer restaurant. And then my favorite place in Portland, Maine, which is the Honey Paw, also made the list. So, just feeling good about our finding our own good options on our own, and about James Beard Foundation's research process.
And in not so good restaurant news, La Garage closed in Bushwick.
I didn't know that. We've been there together.
I know.
You must be crushed.
Yeah. I loved shout out to Rachel who ran it, who was awesome. And, I got to see firsthand, by knowing Rachel, just how hard it is to run a restaurant, get through COVID. And she did awesome, but she just kind of wanted to do something else. So, I'm going to miss La Garage. It was a really cute a French bistro in Bushwick that had great neighborhood vibes and a great chicken that the New York Times even loved. So,
well, the great thing about being a chef is you can always open a new concept, right? And
that's exactly it. Yeah.
It's hard. It's definitely hard. I mean, Clover is like in a quick service fast food. It's fast vegetarian food. And so it's a little bit of a different model, but I definitely feel that. I mean, COVID changed the whole industry, and it does speak to, how unpredictable business can be. It's amazing she held on through all of COVID, but I'm sure we'll land on her feet. Probably doesn't help, Ryan, that you've also not been spending as much time in Bushwick. I think you were most of the sales there.
No, I went from being once a week to, just occasional. So, support your local restaurants is really what we're saying, I think, whenever you can.
Absolutely. Especially Clover in Boston.
Is this a sponsored episode? This is our first advertiser. Well, Kiernan, next episode, I'm finally going to take us to Buenos Aires. We were going to do it this episode, but the James Beard.
Yeah, we keep getting good guests.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about this.
Delay for good interviews.
Yeah. So until then, I'm Ryan Davis,
and I'm Kiernan Schmidt,
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This suit taken. I always think James Beard is a weird name because it makes me think of beard hair getting into food.
Well, he was a TV chef. We find out.